last part of Proverbs because one verse is complements the other verse, and so the thoughts are carried out or flowing. Chapter 22, verse 26 and 27. Would you please read, Sister Gabby?
No seas de aquellos que se comprometen, ni de los que salen por fiadores de deudas. Si no tuvieres para pagar, ¿por qué han de quitar tu cama debajo de ti?
Okay.
Do not be among those who give pledges involving themselves and others' finances, or among those who become guarantors for others' debts. If you have nothing with which to pay another's debt when he defaults, why should his creditor take your bed from under you?
All right. Don't be unwise in finances, and by all means, don't take on someone else's debt. If you don't have money, why would you put yourself in a position where they take away your goods for someone else's debt that they didn't pay? Wolford and Zuck commentary says, the third saying says, the high risk in putting up security for debt is mentioned. There's a very high risk in that. Several times, Proverbs notes that. You'll find that in Proverbs 6 and 1 and different places. It'll talk about this subject. Proverbs 11:15 says, he who is a surety for a stranger will suffer, but one who hates being surety is secure. One who you don't really even know the person, and then you take on to co-sign for them for something they're doing. It may not even be something they need to have. So we need to be very careful in that. It's a warning to help us. Striking hands in a pledge means to confirm an agreement, like the gesture of shaking hands on a debt. That's the way they used to seal a deal. In the old days, they shook hands. Of course, now we sign contracts, but striking hands in a debt meant that you confirm an agreement. You're saying, yes, if that person doesn't pay, I'll take it on. If the debtor fails to pay, the creditor will hound the co-signer. We've done that. I've been in that situation where I did that, and then you end up in dire straits trying to scrape up. You can barely take care of your own needs, and there you are trying to take care of someone else that didn't come through like they said they would. Then that particular co-signer, sometimes his furniture may be taken as payment, or his goods, whatever goods he has. This serious consequence results from becoming foolishly entangled in another person's financial problems. Don't be talked into doing that. John MacArthur's Study Bible says, the foolishness here is making oneself responsible for another's debt and pledging to pay it if the other person defaults. If you'll note in Deuteronomy 15:7 and 8, I think there's other scriptures here. If there's among you a poor man, though, of your brethren within any of the gates in a poor land, which the Lord is giving you, you shall not harden your heart, nor hold your hand or shut your hand from your poor brother, but shall open your hand wide to him and be willing to lend him sufficient for whatever he needs. And then 10 says, you shall surely give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because this is the thing, the Lord your God will bless you, and he will bless you in all your works and in all to which you put your hand. The attitude of this scripture is of the Israelites toward the poor in the community was to be warm and generosity. The poor were given whatever was necessary to meet their needs, with the realization such loans would not ever be paid back. Now, he's talking about helping those that are poor, and you're not expecting anything in return. And that's different from co-signing for someone that has you can't, they are not substantial at all. The poor can't help if they don't have anything, okay? Enduring Word says, as mentioned in other Proverbs, it's dangerous to become responsible for the debts of other people. Under the laws and customs regarding the failure to pay debts in the Bible, property could be easily seized, and even people made forced servants in the biblical days for the repayment of debts. The risk is that if some lacks the means to pay his creditors, they may take his bed. This expression means like taking the shirt off his back, okay? And that comes from Ross. They can take whatever collateral from that person that they want to take. Benson's commentary says, namely, don't sign rashly or unnecessarily. You need to look into that, check that out, check the person out, check what's going on. You need to find out about that. You don't just up and do it. Why would you put yourself in the hands of such a man who exacts debt without compassion? Because the person that you are going in debt with may not have any compassion at all. They just want their money, and they don't care how they get it, or they want some goods to get it. God did not allow this practice of taking and keeping a poor person's bed or their necessary clothing. And you'll see that in Exodus 22, 25 to 27. Yet covetous creditors frequently would do it anyway. They were covetous, and they didn't care. So they took whatever that person had. Bible reference says, a wise person avoids being caught up in other people's money troubles. This is often presented in the imagery of co-signing for a loan or agreeing to pay for debts. Terms such as pledges, surety, securities are like what modern banking would call collateral, something of worth to forfeit if your debt is not paid. Putting oneself at financial risk for the sake of others should only be done with careful consideration. It didn't say you couldn't do it, but it's best not to do it rashly, or just do it because somebody asked you to do it. Proverbs warns against unwise risks associated with others' finance. That's being unwise to take that on. You need to know, how did they get in that situation? Is that something they really need? How much is it? How long will it be? What do they have to offer? What the terms are, how long the terms are. We need to know, ask a lot of questions about that before we take that on, okay? That's what he's teaching. The teaching is not that we should never lend or never give. Rather, we should be careful, okay, not to place our resources in jeopardy over another person's responsibility. It's not saying you couldn't help somebody out, but you are to investigate that. And you, for a poor person, a person that doesn't have anywhere to sleep, it's better really just to give them. If they're poor, they can't pay it back no way, so just give it to them. And don't expect anything back. But we should never go into that unwisely. It's like it said, it's not saying you should never lend or give, but you should be careful before you place yourself in that position, because you are in jeopardy of losing your own resources. Old Testament law provided protections for those that were so destitute that their collateral involved their basic needs. They didn't have any food to eat. They didn't have anywhere to sleep. They only didn't have that much to wear. So God protected those people. It is wrong to take advantage of migrants who don't have anything. You charge them thousands of dollars. That's wrong. God is looking, and he's not pleased with that. You're taking advantage of their situation. They are desperate to get to where there's safety, and you take whatever goods they have. They have no money, or very little money, or they've saved money just to get out of the country, and you take it all. So, and then many times you get caught, they get sent back, and they still have nothing. God is not pleased with that, okay? Old Testament law provided protections for those that were so destitute that their collateral involved their basic needs: water, food, shelter, clothing. Those are their basic needs. Under the law of Moses, a person's cloak was given as a pledge, okay? And it had to be returned before the sun went down. If they said, could I just take my coat so I could get this, okay, so I can get groceries or whatever, before, under the law of Moses that God had given, before the sun went down, you needed to give that back, because that person wasn't going to have a way to be warm in the cold. God provided ways that they would not be taken advantage of. Okay? It shows you he cares for others. You'll see that in Deuteronomy 24, 12 and 13. And if the man who pledges his coat is a poor man, you shall not sleep in his pledge. You don't take his coat and wear it and you be warm and that person be stuck in the cold. You shall restore to him the pledge, the coat, the whatever he's given, as soon as possible. In other words, before the sun sets, okay? That he may sleep in his own cloak that he have worn, okay? And God will bless you because that's the righteous thing to do, because God is taking note of that. He's taking note. However, in the days of Ezekiel, some people of Israel, okay, took advantage of this merciful law. Let's look at Ezekiel 18, 10 through 13. Ezekiel 18, 10 through 13. God was giving them different things that Israel was not to do. When they got in the land of the heathen was doing some of everything. But Israelites weren't to do that. Okay, will you read that? Ezekiel 18, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
If he is the father of a violent son who sheds blood, and who does any of these things to a brother, though the father did not do any of these things, that is, the son even eats the food set before idols at the mountain shrines, and defiles his neighbor's wife, oppresses the poor and needy, commits robbery, does not restore to the debtor his pledge, but raises his eyes to the idols and commits repulsive acts, and charges interest and takes a percentage of increase on what he has loaned. Will he then live? He will not live. He has done all these disgusting things. He shall surely be put to death. His blood will be on his own head.
Okay, it lists many things, but in that list is taking a pledge and harming others. And God said, will he live for that? No, because it is an abomination. He mentions that it's evil not to restore the pledge, not to give back what that poor person, they couldn't afford it anyway. If they weren't poor, they wouldn't be in that situation in the first place. So we have two things we're looking at here. The person that's not poor, but is putting themselves in a position and want someone else to co-sign for them. Don't do that. Don't think about that before you get yourself. It's okay to lend, but think about it, investigate it, check it out before you agree to do that, because God has some stipulations there as to how we are to treat our fellow man. And that's why we have so many problems in, okay, you have a student, they don't have anything. They want to go to school. So you have them sign thousands of dollars for a loan. Is that fair? Or you charge them 87% on that? That's not fair. And when they get in a bind, you say they can't get their education. God wants us to be fair in what we're doing. The better thing would be to do a little at a time until you're able to do otherwise, okay? Just do a little at a time till you're able to do otherwise. And it doesn't say you can't lend to them, but it can't be with usury, and it can't take all their living, where they don't have anything to eat, no food, nothing to wear, no place to live. That's extortion. That's terrible. That should not be. That's never to be. And think over it carefully before you enter into that transaction. Think carefully, because God is not pleased with that when we do that. It doesn't mean you can't help them. You can't lend to someone. But you need to know all the particulars of that. You don't just jump into it and then get yourself in a bind. As a young couple, we did that many, many years ago. And we willingly signed to help the person get their furniture. And then they skipped town. Well, we couldn't hardly pay for our furniture. Let's know some furniture we didn't have. We almost lost our furniture trying to help pay for theirs as well. We weren't wise. We didn't think of that. We didn't look into that. Just because we all knew each other and they gave us a pitiful face, we went for that. And then we almost lost all we had. Believe me, we didn't have much. So these things are for our learning. They are. God is putting it out there through his word to help us. And many a young person has signed for someone to move in with them, and then the person skipped, and then you're stuck. Well, you need to look at that a little carefully, because that can go on forever and ever, and there you are. You thought you was happy. You thought the person was on the up and up, but they weren't. And that's a red flag to see, why can't you do it? Why don't you have it? That's a little flag there. Little voice say, better check that out, better see. But we didn't know that. We didn't. We're helping our friend. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up with no money and no furniture either, because they took it with them. So these are things God, instructions. He's teaching us how to live in this world. And we're covering a lot of subjects. But any subject we need to know about, we pretty much have covered it. It's things you teach your children. It's things you share with your children. It's things you pass on as parents to your children. No. She said she'd give it back, but they don't. Mm-mm. Where's your jacket? Why don't you have, where's your book bag? Where's your this? Where's your that? She said, I let her have. Well, no, you don't do that. They have to be taught those things. They don't automatically know them. Those instructions are to help us so we know to be wise, to give us instructions for wisdom. And this is what this lesson is about. Be careful. Don't go into that thinking, yeah, well, I'll let them go and have it. Sometimes inside something's telling you, no, maybe you better not do that. But we go ahead anyway, and then we pay the consequences. Good, solid, sound lesson today.